Okay. Theotoxin is a black metal band out of Vienna, Austria. And they've sort of evolved from a sort what I would say a more traditional and very plain style of very straightforward Scandinavian black metal to incorporate influences from general Swedish black metal and melodic black metal. Again, a very Swedish approach, but there are some early Norwegian touches to some of their sound without really affecting the atmosphere. So it is very much a modern but also throwback black metal band and a fairly typical result from Germany in general when it comes to sort of semi-melodic black metal in a traditional style. There's a long history of that, which I won't get into now, but I think Germany has always been pretty good at finding the balance between what I would consider markers of Mayhem and their evil twin Dissection. That's just a joke. It's not a literal thing that I just said. But what troubles me about this band, or what did in the beginning, was that they really didn't sound like Dissection to start. They sounded a little bit like Mayhem's second record, and a little bit of like an early 2000s Black Death sound, like Belphegor or certain Marduk records. And they still have some of that Marduk influence in here. They cover a Marduk song on this record. But now their sound for me is leaning more towards the second Thy Primordial album. Great record if you don't know it. The second Enthroned album, another great album a lot of people sort of overlook. And I didn't literally compare them to Gates of Ishtar here, but you do see some of the dual guitar techniques that were common to Swedish black metal when the Swedish black death metal sort of phenomenon had begun its valuable and very short run of interesting releases. So we get an effective melodic black metal record that effectively runs out of ideas in the middle and then finishes off strong. So it starts up with a lot of great pieces. It hits a speed bump for me when the vocalist just won't stop singing on the third song. And he maintained, like, the lyrics are pretty interesting on this record, but he just never stops. He just keeps going for the entire thing. And for me, it's like, I need just like a minute of breathing room in the middle of this song. Let's see what else you can do. So, uh, yeah, like they hit upon some thrash notes in here. The vocalist sounds a little bit like sort of like the early creator influence in a lot of black metal bands from the early '90s, which I like quite a bit. But the sort of monotonous, rasping nature of it really didn't work for me, especially in the middle of the album when they hit upon some slower songs where you start to really hear the lyrics, and some of them are kind of interesting, some of them are bad, some of them are good. And I, I liked this record, but from a certain point of view, right? So the important thing is like, um, how would I recommend this to the general public versus my own specific taste in black metal? Those are two very different things. I prefer black metal that has a bit more of a unique character, that has worked quite hard to have its own spin, its own atmosphere, and its own style through years of work. Theotoxin is more of a shortcut by relying heavily on what I would consider pretty standard ideas of what black metal was in the 90s. And I think that's cool. It is easily recognized. It is somewhat memorable. They've written, I would say, about 5 or 6 pretty great songs in here if you like melodic black metal, and in a little more of a standard form. If you don't have such a strong taste for black metal yet, or you don't know, or you just like something a little bit more standard, this is a great example of real respect for those traditions and really professionally performed and curated pieces. I think their craft in general, from aesthetics to musicianship, has improved with each album. And so the last one was sort of the breakthrough, and this one is the one where they're just kind of showing off how much better they're doing now. So I think they're in a good place as a band. I think they're, from what I've seen, they're a pretty good live band. So I think it's worth knowing the band, but this is not their absolute opus just yet. It's sort of them meeting that high standard to a degree, but really, I don't know if the content of this album is really going to stand out or stand up to the test of time. So for me, it's like they've proved they can do it, and now I just want something with a bit more. Basically, what I say in here in simpler words is I'd like to hear a bit more personality, a little bit more weirdness, a little bit more something, whatever it is that would make this stand out more. And even just more intense melody would um, remedy some of that feeling. So, not a bad record, not an amazing record. For me, it's just kind of somewhere in the middle, and it was worth listening to a bunch of times. But it has a couple of quirks that kind of cut me out of it after a while. So, read through the review for more details on that, and go decide for yourself.